Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Hey, Are You Still There podcast. I'm just running solo this week. It's just me. You would like to think Beth would be a part of this, especially since we're coming off a week's vacation. But obviously that week's vacation took so much out of Beth. She could not bring herself to have enough energy to record the podcast with me this week. So it's just me. I got some stuff we're going to talk about. So, for those of you that like to hear Beth, you'll have to wait till next week. Everyone else, you're stuck with me. Like I said, we just came off a week's vacation. We had the very rare, combination of planets aligning and school schedules to where all three of our kids, for the first time ever, had the same spring break. And so that's pretty impressive considering they go to three different schools. And so all three had the same spring break. We saw this the first of the school year, and Beth told all three of them, do not make any plans. We are doing a family vacation. It's been a couple years since the five of us have been together. We've taken some vacations with Maria and Josh, or just Josh, or Josh and Jacob, or just Jacob, or Jacob and Josh. But we haven't taken one with like all five of us. So we looked at a couple different options of where to go. Nobody could really decide on anything. And so the default that my kids go to, especially for spring break, is Kiawah Island, South Carolina. That's their favorite beach. They love Kiawah. And so one of the kids mentioned that. We were like, sure, we can do that. I think the last 2 years, that's where Josh and Jacob have both had the same spring breaks, and we went to Kiawah both those years too. So this is the first time Maria's been back in about 6 years. So she was very excited to get back. But Kiawah Island, if you've never heard about it, it's phenomenal. It is our favorite beach anywhere on the East Coast that we've been to. And we've been to pretty much every beach, especially in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. We've been to some in Florida, Virginia Beach, even up to Maryland, Delaware. But this is our favorite. It's an island, as it says in the name. It is a well-guarded island. They have a 24/7 guard at the gate, and you do not get on the island unless you have a pass to get on the island. When you come into the island, right before you get onto the island is the only shopping area anywhere around. They have a pretty, what I would call a bougie shopping center with a really nice fancy Harris Teeter and some restaurants and coffee shops and just, that kind of stuff. But that's where you go, unless you want to kind of drive off the island about 20 or 30 minutes. That's it. On the island itself, once you get past the guard, there's nothing commercial. There's no hotels. There's no anything like that. There's no shops. There's no businesses. There's a handful of restaurants, and they are all run by Kiawah Island Resorts. So nothing's privatized there as far as I couldn't just go and open up a hot dog stand. They would not allow me to do that. Everything is run through the Kiawah Island umbrella of stuff. It's the island itself. I have no idea how many homes are on the island. I know it has 5 golf courses, I believe, the most famous being the Ocean Course, which was home to, I think, just a couple of years ago, the PGA Championship. But it's a very famous golf course. I think the Ryder Cup was played there at one point. Like I said, several majors have been played there. The Ocean Course is considered by many to be kind of a mecca, similar to Augusta or Pebble Beach, something like that. So this is a place where golfers will come because they just want to play this course. I looked it up just to see how much it would cost. In peak season, it costs you $650 to play a round of golf on the Ocean Course. And then you have to pay a minimum $100 to your caddy. There's no carts. Everybody walks. And you're required to have a caddy, and that caddy will carry your bags for you and do whatever else is needed. But so during peak season, $750 minimum if you want to play the Ocean Course. I found some dates that were available in December and January, kind of like random Thursdays. I was just looking, and you can get on the course for about $400. And I don't know if the caddy $100 caddy minimum is $365, or if that varies with the season also. But yeah, somewhere between $400 and $650 just to play 18 holes of golf, not counting what you're going to have to pay and tip your caddy. But it's history. If you like golf, it's history. It's a historical course. People love to go there. There's mostly homes on this island. There are some condos and townhouses, but again, they're run by Kiawah Island Resorts. You know, it's pretty much everything is VRBO. Every piece of property on this island is owned by somebody. And I mean, there's obviously stuff for sale, a lot of stuff for sale, but it's owned. It's individual units. And so you would have an individual condo, individual townhome, whatever. And then those folks either keep it as a vacation home or they rent it out on like VRBO, which is how we found our house. So we got a house about a block off the beach, and that kind of suited us. And that's where we stayed. The cool thing about Kiawah, two other cool things is, number one, bike paths. They have 30 miles of bike paths all over the island. So if you wanted to, you could just park your car for the week and just ride your bike everywhere. We rode our bikes a couple years ago to the island course, which is on the far east side of the island, about as far as you can go. We were staying on the west, and it was about, I think it's right at 10-mile bike ride to get one way, to get from where we were staying to the ocean course there at Kiawah. There's 30 miles of bike trails all over the place. So you just get on and you just ride your bike. You can even ride it up to that little shopping center I was telling you about. We've done that many times. Rode a bike up there, got ice cream, or went to a coffee shop or something like that. The other cool thing about Kiawah, there is wildlife everywhere. And when I say wildlife, I'm talking deers and alligators. There's swamps, little maintained ponds. They're not, they look nice, but they are natural swamps and ponds, and you can't ride your bike by one that you don't see an alligator. Josh was riding his bike down a path, and he sent us a video of an alligator just walking across the path, coming out of the woods, getting ready to walk into the water. But it's nothing to see him just laying around the golf course, laying around the ponds. They're everywhere. And then there's deer everywhere, hundreds, if not thousands of deer. You can't go out at dawn or dusk that you're not seeing deer, just herds of deer all over this island. And because they see so many people, you can walk right by them and they just look at you like, what are you doing here? They don't run. They're not scared. They're there. That's their home. And so we've been to beaches and islands before, especially in the South, where you might run into the occasional alligator, not as many as Kiawah, but we've never been somewhere that's been just so inhabited by deer that there's just, they actually have to do deer control because there's so many deer on this island. But we love it. We absolutely love Kiawah. So what happened, if you remember our last podcast, we talked a lot about the Sunday night stand-up comedy debut for myself at the Idiot Box in Greensboro, North Carolina. I had finished my 5 weeks stand-up class, and we had our graduation class, and we ended up pushing our vacation. We were originally going to leave Sunday, but we pushed it to Monday just so I could go to that Sunday night. Beth and I got up early Monday morning. That's when we recorded last week's podcast, which was primarily about the stand-up experience that I had that night. And then we hit the road, and it's about 5 hours from our house to Kiawah. So we took off and went down there and then came back Saturday. So that was our week. And it was a great week. It was a great vacation. Everyone got along. And it's what's cool. I mean, you get to a point with your kids, especially when you got 3, there's going to be some kind of fighting or chaos, on any trip. But now that 2 of the 3 are adults and the third one is 16, who, let's be honest, he's the most mature out of our 3 anyway. There was no fighting. There was no arguing. There was no bickering. There was sharing. There was love. We spent time at the beach a bunch, sitting out. It was sunny and 75 every day, just about. We rode our bikes. We ate good food. We ate in pretty much. Beth and I would get up. We'd let the kids sleep in, and Beth and I would take off and go to a coffee shop or a little breakfast place every morning. And then we'd eat lunch in, sandwiches or whatnot. And then we'd go out for dinner that night and eat at it. a nice restaurant. But that was kind of our day. We'd come back, we'd play board games. We just kind of let everybody kind of do what they want. I told the kids, this is your vacation too. I don't want to force y'all to do anything you don't want to do. So you just do what you want to do. And if you want Mom and I to join you, we will. And they were really gracious about wanting us to join them doing various things. And so it was great. It was a lot of fun. It was really cool because Jacob, his major is birds or I guess environmental type science, biology, but concentration on birds. And, he worked last summer in the Audubon Society. He was an intern for the South Carolina Audubon. He was stationed at Bidler Forest, just outside of Charleston. And so he went all over the state, tagging birds, checking nests, doing various things, and even got to go down to Kiawah a time or two. Kiawah actually is the only place in South Carolina that the Audubon does not have, I guess, bird jurisdiction over. Kiawah, in keeping to their privateness, they had their own biology department. So they had their own environmentalist and nature preserve folks, and they take care of their birds and the deer and the alligator. They do it all in-house. And so they just say, hey, thanks, but we got this. But there was a time or two where they got to go down there and partner with the Kiawah folks. But, it was cool to have Jacob down there, and he was getting to see some birds, and there was some migrating birds that had landed in Kiawah that are pretty rare. So he got to see those. And then we got to go to Bidler Forest on the way out and visit kind of where he worked and got to see that. A couple of things that we did actually the very first night. Was it Monday night? Was it Monday we got down there or Tuesday? It may have been Tuesday night. Or Monday night. It may have been Monday night. We got down there, and Bidler Forest and the Audubon Society was actually doing a trivia night at a restaurant in Charleston. And Jacob really wanted to go to that. So we rode up to Charleston that night, ate there at the restaurant. It was a great place. And what was the name of it? Holy City Brewery, I think may have been the name of it. It was massive, but like I said, it was a brewery, but it was a restaurant, and the food was good. And I think they had 24 teams that were competing, 24, 25 teams that were competing in the trivia. And we did not win, but we held our own. We were happy with our results. We felt like we were maybe in the top third points wise. And so we felt good about that. But then the next night we went to a restaurant, and that was Tuesday night. That's right. Went to Wednesday night. We went to a restaurant, and they happened to be having trivia also. So we were like, yeah, we'll play. And it was free. And so we played again. And this was just kind of general trivia. And the Gianopulos family won that trivia contest. So we may not know a lot about birds outside of Jacob, but we know some general trivia. And so we were able to win the trivia contest, which got us a $40 gift card to that restaurant. We thought we'd be able to make it back by before we left, and we didn't. So there's no expiration date. So we'll hit it next time we're down that way, or give it to Jacob when next time he's down toward Charleston way. But that was fun. So we lost one trivia contest and won another. Sorry, I had to take a little water break. So we got home later on Saturday, got up Sunday, had church Sunday morning. Beth and her friend Faith went to go. It's called the Tanger Center. It's in Greensboro. It's like a Broadway show type theater. It's big. It's the biggest in North Carolina, the newest in North Carolina. It opened up in 2021. It's fantastic. We go there all the time for either Broadway shows or concerts. It's an amazing facility, and we love it. But we have season tickets to the Broadway shows. We typically go on Saturdays, but we couldn't go on Saturday because we were coming back from South Carolina, so we moved our show to Sunday. I could not go because I had some Project Re3 obligations that I had to take care of. And so Beth went, and she took our friend Faith, and they went and saw The Sound of Music, which Beth said was phenomenal. So they did that. Then they went and ate dinner, and they got in a little later last night. So Beth asked her last night, I was like, you want to do the podcast? And she's like, nah, I'm tired. Let's do it in the morning. It's like, all right, we can do that. That's what we did last week. No big deal. So I said, well, what's your schedule like? Beth said, I have a meeting at 9 o'clock, another one at 10, another one at 11:30. So she was like, if we're going to do it, let's try to do it early. Let's just get up early, drink some coffee, do the podcast, and I'll start my day. I was like, that's fine. So I get up at 7:30 and Beth is dead to the world. She's just late. She wiped out. I'm telling you, like this vacation took it out of her. But she was just laying there on her back, eye mask on, earplugs in her ears, just dead. And so I got up and got dressed. Because we had been gone for a week, we had no groceries. So I got up, went to the grocery store, picked up some groceries, stopped by Panera, got us a couple of coffees and got her a quiche, texted her and said, hey, I'm on my way home. I've got you breakfast and coffee. I'll be there just before 9. I get that home, walk in the door. It's 8:55 at this point. So she's getting ready to go to her first meeting at 9 o'clock. And the house is still quiet. Anyway, Jacob's back at school, Maria's back at school, and Josh will be back to school tomorrow. Speaking of Maria, so there's a coffee company. I first found out about them when I went out to Colorado one time. I was in Denver, and the group I was with, the friends I was with, kept talking up this place, Dutch Bros. And I was like, what in the world? And it's like this drive-through coffee joint. And it's good. It's quick. I mean, they sell more than just coffee. I would say if coffee shops had personalities, Starbucks would be what I would call emo. You know, it's kind of that dark, brooding kind of like, Dutch Bros is the complete opposite. It's rainbows and unicorns and sunshine and happiness and bursting with just fun. And it's a drive-through place and it just stays packed. And so, yeah, I would talk about Dutch Bros when I'd come home. I'd be like, man, there's this really cool coffee shop. We went there every morning. It's called Dutch Bros. And I would hit up a Dutch Bros every time we went to Denver or the Denver area, Fort Collins, wherever, around that area. Well, when Maria was in Orlando last summer working at Disney, they opened up a Dutch Bros right near Disney World. And one of her friends got so excited because she knew Dutch Bros. So she took Maria, and Maria fell in love with Dutch Bros. And so Maria just kept talking it up. And I'm like, I know, I tried telling you. And so Maria just loves Dutch Bros. Well, North Carolina has no Dutch Bros as of a few weeks ago. North Carolina had a mom and pop chain that was very similar to what Dutch Bros is trying to do, but it was kind of their own little coffee, I guess, business franchise, whatever you want to call it. But it was only in North Carolina, kind of only in the major cities, Greensboro, Winston, Charlotte, Raleigh, that kind of thing, Wilmington. Well, Dutch Bros, I don't mind them when companies do this. When they're like, you know what, we want to go into a new territory. We don't have to reinvent a wheel. Let's just make these folks an offer and let's just take over. And so I guess that's what they did. And they made this family an offer they couldn't refuse. And so they sold them all their shops, and Dutch Bros shut them down, spent about a month, I guess, remodeling them and getting them up to where they want it to be. And of course, started hiring new employees. Maria was so excited, so she applied. The guy that interviewed her told her that literally he had hundreds of applications just for that one store. Like for 3 days straight, he said he had interviews every 15 minutes. So Maria did not think that she was going to be able to get the job. I felt like she would because of Disney. The first year she worked at Epcot, she did a lot of stuff working with customers and disgruntled customers and things like that. The second year she worked at Disney, she worked at Galaxy's Edge, which is the Star Wars part of it, and she worked primarily with food services, and so she had to deal with a lot of customers there. And I just said, look, if you can operate at Disney, you can operate anywhere, and companies know this. And sure enough, like she said, when he called, he was like, oh, tell me about Disney. Tell me about, and she said they talked first, her and the guy talked about Star Wars for the entire interview. A few days later, they called her back and said, all right, you got the job. So Maria had her orientation today for Dutch Bros, and then she's going to go for training. I believe it is next week, and then she'll start working. So she is very excited to start working for Dutch Bros, and we're very excited because she hasn't had a job since Disney, and she's been that ended in last August. So, after like 7 months, I am ready for my daughter to get a job, and get going. She's kind of burned through what money she had saved. But anyway, so anyway, if you're in Winston and you happen to hit up the Dutch Bros, I think she might be at the one on Stratford. You may see her there, or maybe not. I don't know. So that's kind of what's been going on in our life. I got a big announcement comedy-wise. I had maybe hinted at this a little bit on last Monday when we did the podcast. I loved the stand-up comedy. It was a lot of fun. I got great compliments. It went by in such a blur. It was a 5-minute set, really about a 6-minute set. It went by in about 5 seconds. It felt like to me. I didn't remember anything about it, but they videoed the whole show. On Monday, Tuesday, the teacher kind of took the show, edited it, just cut it up, spliced it to where he was able to email each student their own individual set. He sent me mine. I was a little hesitant to watch because I don't go back and even watch or listen to my sermons. It's just, I don't know. It's just something about that. But I was like, I got to watch and just see how I did. I did surprisingly well. It went better than in my mind I thought it did. And there was laughs throughout the entire show, like a lot of laughs. And the jokes I thought did hit. There was a couple that did not hit, but I think it's because my timing, I think I rushed it a little bit because I was afraid I was taking too long. So I didn't pause long enough for the joke to kind of simmer and hit. But that was my fault. But it was really good. So I was able to put up a minute clip of it. I kind of just put up a clip. I didn't want to put the whole thing up on social media because what I'd like is for people to see it, maybe a minute clip of it, the 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and say, man, it looks pretty good. I think I want to come see Mike and hear his entire thing. And so anyway, that 1 minute clip that I put out on social media is, it's a teaser, so to speak. So it's on my social media page, my Facebook page, Instagram page. I can't remember if I put it on the Hey, Are You Still There page. If not, I will do that today. But anyway, the big news is after the show, we were all kind of getting ready to leave, saying our goodbyes. And Steve, the teacher, had mentioned to me, the Idiot Box runs a competition every summer called the Ultimate Comic Challenge. It's been going on for many years. And they take applications, I guess. You apply and they put you in if you're good enough, I guess, or they deem like you're not some hacker, that they'll put you in. And I guess they have, I'm going to guess somewhere around 80 comics that are in this thing. And it's spread out. In May is the first round. June is the second, July the third, and then August, I think, is the finale. August versus September, something like that. But what they do is they have, on Friday and Saturday nights, they have 2 shows. They have 12 to 14 comics at an 8 o'clock show competing, and then 12 to 14 comics at a 9:30 show competing. And they do this for 2 weekends. And so there's, 4 shows a weekend. Each of them have about a dozen or so comics. So what happens is you do your bit, you do a 5-minute bit, and when everybody's done, the audience then votes on who was their top half. But there was 12 comics, I guess they vote for your top 6. And whoever gets the most votes moves on to the second round, which is the following month. And that's how it proceeds. It just keeps going, keeps getting whittled down by audience votes. You just got to finish in the top half to move on. If you make it to the final 2, you get to perform at the Carolina Theater, which is an old theater in Greensboro, but is a pretty nice historic. Like, it was around when my dad was a kid. Like, it's one of these old historic theaters that still has some plays and has some smaller bands and things like that. And so you get to perform there for the finale. And if you win, you get some money, and then I think you get to headline a show at the Idiot Box. So anyway, all that to be said, Steve mentioned to me on that Sunday night, he said, I think there might be a couple of openings still left for the Ultimate Comic Challenge. His wife, Jenny, is the one who runs that. He was like, reach out to Jenny and see. He was like, you should enter it. I was like, all right. So I reached out to Jenny and said, hey, Steve told me to ask you if there was any openings. The deadline for it had been like February 1st. So I submitted my name to be considered. And she messaged me back and was like, you're in. And she was like, done. But I had to wait on a date. So now I have the date. The date is going to be May 23rd. It's Saturday night, May 23rd. I pulled a 9:30 show. And so I'm going to be performing at 9:30 at night at the Idiot Box, May 23rd, competing in the first round of the Ultimate Comic Challenge. Yeah, the unfortunate thing about it being 9:30 is I'm not going to have any friends or anybody come out that late, and nor would I expect them to be able to, to drive to Greensboro and to sit through probably an hour and a half show. And that's a big ask. And so I'm just going to probably advertise that that's when I'm doing it, ask for prayers, and then I'll go do that. We'll see what happens. I don't know I've been to an 8 o'clock crowd. I've never been to a late night crowd. I've heard they can be a little different. So who knows? It may be a crowd that enjoys my humor. It may not. But so I'm committed to do that. And Thursday nights over at the Idiot Box, they have open mics. And I'm going to go to my first open mic this week. Steve said, look, when you get your 5-minute set and you get it, the next thing you need to do is hit as many open mics as you can just to get reps in. It's similar to people going to the gym and just working out. You go there, you work out, you get better, you get stronger, more physically fit. I wouldn't know anything about that, but this is it. It's like, hey, if you're doing stand-up, you got to hit the open mics just so you can keep, you're not doing those for laughs. You're doing those for yourself. You're doing those so that you can, figure out what's working, what's not working, learn pacing, learn timing. If you have new material, that's a good time to maybe do a little bit at a time. You probably don't want to go in with a whole fresh 5 minutes. So what I'm going to do this week is my 6-minute set was pretty much broke up into 3 segments, three jokes or 3 themes, or there was a connective tissue that ran through several things. And I'm going to take 2 of those that I did at last Sunday. And I have a third that I have written that I'm going to put in between those 2 on Thursday night. So it's kind of going to work as a bridge. And the reason I'm doing this is because Steve let me go 6 minutes on Sunday, but these open mics, and especially the Ultimate Comic Challenge, he said they hold you is 5 minutes. With 4 minutes, after 4 minutes, and you got 1 minute to go, there's a light that they flash at you, so I got 1 minute and I got to wrap it up. So from what I've read and been told, if you are someone that goes in and kind of abuses that and keeps going over, they just won't let you come back. And so definitely I don't want that to happen. So I knew I had to remove 1 of the 3 jokes. And so when I did that, the first 2 ended up, when I timed them out, was about 3.5 minutes. And so I was like, all right, I need to come up with another 1.5 minutes. And I've got a ton of material. I've got a lot. And so I sat down while we were at the beach and started writing, trying to, write a new section of stories or jokes that I could put in. And I finished that up, cleaned it up, worked on that a lot, even today, and got it down to where it's about 1.5 minutes. And so I've run through the entire set that I'm going to do Thursday a couple of times, and every time it comes out basically right at 5 minutes. So I'm real happy with this. So the open mic on Thursday, 8 o'clock, the Idiot Box, will be 2 jokes that I did last Sunday and 1 brand new one that I'm going to see how it goes and see how the response is. The video itself, the entire video, I sent it to a handful of people. I sent it to Beth's parents. I sent it to my parents. I even sent it to Ross's parents. Just folks that I knew would not go to a club like that or ever hear me. All 3 sets of parents loved it. So I don't know, of course there are parents and in-laws and friends of parents of friends, but so maybe they're going to say that, but they seem genuine in their enthusiasm. And my mom, sorry, I just took another water break. My mom made the comment to me. She was like, you just seem like you've been doing this forever. Like you're just, like you've been a stand-up comic for 20 years. And that was something that the rest of the class kept telling me. We were taking them, they were just like, man, you were just like a natural. And I'm not a natural. I tried to tell the class and Steve, and I had to even tell my mom this again. I've been getting up in front of people and preaching for 30 years. It will be 30 years in May that I've been in full-time ministry. And for most of those weeks, at least one day a week or one night, I've gotten up and did a 20 to 30 minute sermon. And so getting up to do 5 minutes is nothing. I mean, I do that. And I told my mom, I was like, I think the thing that helped me the most in being, because mom was saying, you're very engaging, you're charismatic, people, seem to really be into it, is youth ministry. When I first got into youth ministry, and as our youth group was growing, we turned our Sunday night youth group meeting into what I would call a youth worship service, for lack of a better term. But it was not like a Sunday morning service. We had skits and we had games and we had a band. And then I would do like about a 15 to 20 minute sermon. But those 15 to 20 minute sermons probably only had about maybe 5 to 8 minutes worth of biblical teaching. The rest of it was stories or comments, things that would keep kids' attention, because I had a room full of high schoolers and middle schoolers. Like, if I needed to do what I could to keep a 12-year-old's attention. And I attribute that to what I'm able to do today, not just preaching at my own church, but doing comedy. That's what I've learned to do. I've had to do this. I was trained, and I had to train myself and go through the bumps of what works, what doesn't work. How do you communicate with people to keep their attention? And so that's what I've been doing. So these stories that I'm telling and the jokes that I'm doing on my stand-up show, it's illustrations, real life illustrations from sermons that I've been preaching for 30 years. These are illustrations that I've used. All I've done is I've taken out the spirituality, the scripture and how it ties into biblical themes and our life and that kind of, taking that out and just kind of using the stories themselves and finding some other connective tissue to kind of link them together. And so I hate to say it's not hard, but it's not hard. I mean, it's what I do, is what I've always done. And so, yes, last Sunday night went great. I am flattered that they asked if I wanted a spot in the Ultimate Comic Challenge. I really am. But I'm not an overnight success story. Like, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I'm a big Malcolm Gladwell fan. And in one of his books, and it's a bit controversial, so because not everybody agrees with it, but he has this whole premise of 10,000 hours. That if you do something for 10,000 hours, you are an expert in that field. And he makes a lot of good points. He talks about, like, the Beatles, John, Paul, George, and Ringo. By the time they came over to the States, they had been playing so much as kids and young teenagers, they had already put in 10,000 hours before they even had the Beatle invasion and came here to the U.S. So when they came, they were like, man, who was this band? It's just like it popped up out of nowhere. Well, they weren't out of nowhere. They had put in the hours. He talks about, I won't go through the whole book, but he uses like sports analogies too, and talks about, why some athletes from other countries are better, and it's because they're able to put in the hours that other countries aren't. Things like that. So I've put in 10,000 hours. There's no doubt in my mind, in 30 years, I've put in 10,000 hours of standing up in front of people, sermon writing, storytelling, all of the above. And so, the comedy thing is fun and it's different. And we'll see where it takes me. But it's been a blast. So that's kind of, another cool God thing. Stuff that you do throughout your life and you think is only going to be for one career or just be utilized in one particular way. And God's like, I can use this in lots of different ways. And so, would I have ever thought 5 years ago that I'd be able to stand up and even if it's just one, to do a stand-up comedy show. No, it would have never crossed my mind. But once I committed to it and I started putting it together, it fit. I mean, it fit perfect. And then I realized I've been training for this. This is what God's been doing in my life. And for other people, it's other things, They're good at whatever they're good at because they've done it a lot. And I think the people in life that often flounder and can't figure out why they can't get footing or can't figure out why some people are better than them at certain things, I just don't think they put in the time. Maybe they bounce around hobby to hobby and they never stop. Maybe they change jobs and careers constantly so that they're not able to get those hours. And, maybe that's what they want. That's fine. But, you do something long enough and you do it with somewhat success, you're going to put in the 10,000 hours and you're going to be an expert. Beth is an expert at the law that she does, and she's considered an expert nationally. I mean, she gets asked to speak at major attorney conferences, and they introduce her as an expert in her field because she's done this for 20 some years. I mean, it's what she does. And so that comes natural to her now, as she can do it with her eyes shut, so to speak, where other people, they would have to work really hard at it. But she's worked really hard at it and she's gotten to where she's at. So anyway, who would have ever thought ministry and preaching and stand-up comedy would somehow collide? But it has. So yeah, I think that's probably about it. I kind of wanted to talk about those things and share about where we're at and kind of any kind of news. I do want to remind everyone that mine and Beth's books are still available on Amazon. I know we don't do a whole lot of self-promotion as far as that goes, but Beth's book that she wrote for Advent is available, and it's a great devotional any time of the year. I mean, I know it has Advent theme, but it's really good. And Beth is currently working on a second devotional, and it'll be one that isn't necessarily seasonal. It's one that can be used at any time, but it's really good. And I thought her first one, Wandering Light, was amazing. And this one will probably be better. Both of my books, Equipped and Available, are available on Amazon. It's weird. Equip is still selling a little better. And I don't know if that's because the theme of it is a little bit more narrow down. Like the Equip is built around the armor of God. And so if you're someone that wants to study the armor of God and talk about that passage, then that's a great book to pick up and read or use as a small group or devotional. So maybe that's it. Available is a bit more. I mean, it's the story of Nehemiah, and that's what I use as kind of the epicenter for the entire book. But the theme of it is just making ourselves available to God, and the idea that our best ability is availability and just being available. We're far too not available or because of things in our life, whatever it may be. So that's what that book's about. And I mean, it sold well, but Equipped is still selling a little more right now. I've had several people tell me they've read Available and loved it. Now go leave a review. That's what I want to. There's been 0 reviews left for Available. And I know people have bought it. I know they've enjoyed it. So it'd be nice to get some reviews. I think that also helps the Amazon algorithm when you start getting some good reviews and it starts popping up more and more. But anyway, those 2 books are out there. I am currently working on a third. My goal is May right now to have it out. And that may be the last one. I don't have anything else in me right now that I feel passionate about as far as putting into a devotional or study guide book form. The third and final book, I'll go ahead. I guess I can go ahead and tell you guys. I've not said this yet. So if you stuck around this long, you deserve to hear. The name of the book is Fear is a 4-letter word. And it is exactly what it's built around. It's built around this idea of fear and how fear freezes us and keeps us from so much in life. So that's the book. Fear is a 4-letter word, and it's, I would say, 95% done. And as soon as it gets finished, I'll send it to my editor, aka Beth, and we'll get it kind of cleaned up. I'll get it in the hands of a couple of people who will read it and give me their thoughts. And then once I kind of clean it up and get it ready, I'm hoping to have all that done by May, and we can launch it sometime in May. And then that'll be the 3-book trilogy: Equipped, Available, and Fear is a 4-letter word. So that'll be that. But we'll put the links up as always. You can buy the books or just Google or go to Amazon and look them up. They're there. But anyhow, that's the show today. That's kind of what's been going on in the life of the Gianopoulos. Beth, I'm going to make sure she's back next week, and there's no excuse for her not to be back next week. And so she'll be here, and her and I can jump back in to discussing all things marriage and family and career and ministry, as we say on this show, the intersection of those things and kind of how that falls into our life. So anyway, that's about that. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Again, we always appreciate the listeners. We thank you for the comments. You can also rate this show. You can go wherever you listen, Spotify or Apple or whatever. You can go in there, just give us a review if you would. If it's good, if it's not, then, don't. But if it is good and you do like it, share it with your friends and leave us a review. That would be phenomenal. But anyway, thank you so much. And until next time.